My name's Justin.
And I'm LaBre.
This is the Better Together podcast. So I want to talk about cereal.
Yeah.
Because I saw an interesting commercial this week.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that hit me about this cereal commercial is that they were trying to do the whole retro thing, which is, you know, what's cool and relevant at this point, which is funny that what's relevant is what's old.
Yeah.
But they had, like, you know, all the old animations of the different cereal characters, the little honeybee and Trix bunny rabbit. But what really hit me was that they said that they had twice the vitamin D. But they never told you how much vitamin D the cereal had to begin with or how much vitamin D the cereal currently has.
So it could have basically nothing.
Yeah, so it could have nothing. They could have doubled 0.1 milligrams and now have 0.2 milligrams, which is meaningless in your whole allotment of cereal. But they made it a bragging point.
Yeah. I'd be interested to go look and see what it says. Not that we consume a ton of cereal or anything, but I'd be curious.
I just think it's funny because of the way that we use statistics.
Yeah.
So, like, we make these statistics and, like, they sound good, but we just kind of manipulate the meaning to mean whatever we intend it to mean instead of what it actually represents.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, you always hear, like, oh, I think it's like 4.5 babies born every second. Well, one, it's weird that half a baby's born every second, but two, are there really 4.5 babies born every second, or do we just know that there was this many babies on average born every day, and so we just take that number, divide it by the number of seconds, and that's how we get that average? And so, like, there really could be no babies born 1 second and 8 babies born the next second, and then the math would still equal out the same whenever we do the statistics.
Yeah, you're right. It's just weird how that all works together, and you can use anything to make it sound good to your advantage. Yeah. That's what this world has taught us.
Yeah, you can twist the numbers to make it sound good and to make things go the way that you want them to, for sure. We talked about this a while back, me and you, about, like, small churches and how it's easier for small churches to seem like they're growing quickly. Yeah. Because if you start the year with 20 people, well, you only need to get one new person every other week. Yeah. To double the size of your congregation. You're like, we doubled this year. But next year it's going to be harder to double. But if you do double, then the next year it's going to be harder, and then eventually it's going to be impossible. Yeah. Right? So, like, church growth is so easy to track on a smaller scale. And, like, it's not so much easier to track, but it's so much easier to look impressive as you grow because you need less people for those numbers to be bigger. Yeah. It's all about how you skew the numbers. Everything's numbers.
That's all it is.
I like how I've given you a subject that you are unable to speak on.
Yeah. You know. We've already discussed this in length, and I guess we've not done it on here. So, I mean, I guess I could just repeat what I said before if I could remember what I said before.
I don't know. It's so funny to me, the situations that I can put you in to where you don't talk. Yeah. I'm a very talkative person. But people who listen to this podcast wouldn't know that. Nope. People who are in any professional camera store you've ever gone to wouldn't know that. Exactly. And people who are in our communication class every week probably wouldn't think that. Exactly. Because certain situations you turn it off, but then in the most random situations.
Like when you're trying to fall asleep at night.
But not just to me.
When you're trying to read a book.
Or when somebody just wants to check you out and get you out of their store and you're, like, telling them your life story. And it's like,
when I'm looking at paint samples. That happened today.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I chatted up with the lady beside me. We had a great time. We were both just at a loss for what colors we should pick.
Well,
so it was fun.
It's just funny that certain situations you're like, I want to talk to everybody. And then you get the opportunity to have the ability to talk to people about things that you're even passionate about.
I'm an enigma. I know.
Yeah. See, normal people, and I classify myself as normal, are not wanting to talk as much in the random situations, but in that time when they have a purpose to talk, then they would be more apt to talk.
Nah. It's
See,
more
that's
fun
a
this
one-word
way.
answer. That's not even like you're doing a podcast.
It's a lot more fun this way because it's surprising.
I guess so. I don't know.
And also, I do a lot better in small settings.
We can't get more smaller than the two of us sitting right next to each other.
Except for all the people on the internet. They're all listening. They're all there.
I gotta tell you a secret. They're listening to other podcasts.
Shh.
Maybe one day you might be like, oh, there's so many people. Listen, I don't want to mess up. But at the moment, I don't think that's a concern. I don't think that's something that you have to worry yourself with.
Well, maybe this communications class will help me communicate better on this podcast.
Well, everything we've learned so far tells us that we shouldn't do this podcast. Because everything we've learned so far is about needing to be passionate about your subject, about preparing, about having whatever you're going to talk about ready. And that's kind of the exact opposite of what we intended to do with this podcast, where we just come to talk about whatever.
Yes, but there are some things that from that class that we can apply to this, like preparing. Maybe we should do a little better because this week we didn't really have that much that we wanted to discuss during this. Maybe we should be a little bit more purposeful in that. And I kept meaning to like make notes on things all week long since the last podcast.
Well, we did a whole lot of stuff, but then it's like that. None of that stuff. It was. I mean, we've done. This is our 10th episode of this podcast. Of this, yeah.
This
so
one.
Of this one. So
this is 30.
This week we have done 30 podcast episodes.
Wow, go us! High five.
Yeah, we've done great. But and now I lost my train of thought.
We've done 30 podcasts.
Derailed. Well, yeah, but for the previous ones, I've not had an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's not like we didn't do anything since the last podcast.
Yeah.
But there's just nothing we did since the last podcast that I'm like super passionate about wanting to talk about either.
Well, there is one thing I want to talk about. I made apple cider from scratch today, per your request. So, I mean, you sparked this. You said, make this. Sent me the recipe.
Well, at first I said we should make this. And then it was really late when we were going to do it. And it was like, well, that's not going to work out.
Yeah, it took like 5 hours total.
It's a long process. Well, you got to but that's the thing about cooking. It's like, oh my goodness, it takes so long to make this. And it's like, yeah, but you only put in
a little bit of work.
A little bit of work. Because the majority of it's boiling apples, basically. Yeah,
but it is time consuming that you have to be at the house and just be there to make sure it's okay. So it's not something you can just set in the crock pot and leave.
I did mention at work today that you were making cider, and somebody asked me, they were like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, well, you just boil apples, really. Boil some apples.
According to the recipe we found, you just boil some apples with some spices.
And sugar.
Yeah, a little bit of sugar.
Is sugar a spice?
It can be, I guess. We're going to say it's a spice.
Was it the Powder Puff Girls that was like sugar and spice and everything nice?
No, that's the little nursery rhyme.
Well, yeah, but I think they say that in the beginning of that cartoon. Whenever they're like, however the Powerpuff Girls came to be.
I mean, maybe. It's been a way long time.
I'm glad that I'm the one that pulled out that reference. That's good.
Yeah, it probably didn't Powerpuff Girls come on like before Dexter's Laboratory or whatever, or like close around it?
Okay.
Because I connect those two.
This is something that our child's not going to understand.
Yeah.
And this is something that like kids growing up today don't even understand.
We
didn't really pick. You had 3 channels.
Yep.
Disney, Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network. And I realized that for people who are much older than us, that was a lot of options.
Yeah.
Because you only had 3 total channels when our parents were kids. I get it. But
we're privileged, we know.
But it's still different today because they just pick whatever show they want to watch. Like most kids
everything's on demand.
I'm not going to say that no kids are watching live TV because obviously live TV has to still be making money, but for the most part, it's all iPads and all that stuff nowadays anyways. So like they just get to watch whatever they want to watch when they want to watch it. So like but we didn't have that option.
We've had to explain commercials.
Yeah, that was weird. But that's funny. But Cartoon Network, like, you just turn the channel on and you're like, well, whatever comes up is going to come up. I mean, I was mind blown whenever we got like Comcast. And then you clicked the button and it told you just every show that was going to come on until we die.
Yeah, you didn't have to just kind of wait and wonder to see what's going to happen, come on next, or to figure out what channel something was on.
Channel 23, the TV Guide channel.
Yeah.
And it was, and you always missed, you're like you're waiting and waiting and waiting. And like you get bored and then you look away and you look back and
you missed your show.
You pissed.
Oh, goodness.
Whoa, that's not what I meant to say. You passed like Disney Channel or whatever. Like you're sitting there waiting, which was Disney Channel was like number 20 or something.
Yeah.
And that's before HD channels. Oh my goodness. Television's just crazy.
Yeah.
And now, though, I think like if I remember right, because we haven't had cable in our entire marriage.
Yeah.
We were we were not even we weren't even early adopters of cable cutting. We were early adopters of I don't want to spend the money.
Yes. We're early to I'm cheap.
Yeah. No. Why don't you guys have cable? Because I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you guys have all the different streaming services? I don't want to pay for it.
I would rather not watch television than pay that much money to watch television. Yeah. We had Netflix for a while.
Yeah.
And then we were like, this is getting ridiculous. They upped the rate like 3 times.
Yep.
And we haven't had Netflix in 4 years.
Yeah.
At least.
At least.
And it was like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, if you're going to keep raising the price, then I'm not interested. Yeah. The only thing that we have 2, I guess technically that we pay for right now, which is Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
But we don't pay for that for any of the television stuff.
No.
And then we have the streaming service Friendly because we wanted to be able to, like, before, issues with other stuff arose, but we want to be able to watch, like, the different Hallmark stuff at Christmas or whatever. And they also have, like, the Outdoor Channel, which was a nice add-on.
They've had some interesting stuff like the Alaskan Trucker or whatever that's called.
They have the Weather Channel, basically, and so that's one of the shows.
Oh.
But we have that service, but it's like super cheap. It's like $7 or something. Like, it's still on the low end, and they keep adding channels, so I'm afraid it's going to go up at some point.
Because it started off with 10 channels?
Yeah.
And it was just mostly a bunch of random stuff and a Hallmark thing, and then they just added more and more.
It was mostly Hallmark channels, and then it was like a couple outdoor shows, because they were like, we want to get women and old men.
Yeah.
And we fit that category. So.
Check. Yep. Sold.
You found us. What you want television. What's weird to me, though, and like we got super diatribe here, but that service's whole goal was like, it's TV that you can have and like your kids can flip through anything. And now it's like, but you get on there now and they're playing like all the different CSIs on there. Well, I don't want a kid watching that.
Exactly.
And then there's also like one of those networks where it's all about how women killed their husbands. And you're like, what in the world? I thought this was the Friendly channel. They had to change the name of it.
Yeah.
Which, when we first got it, we were watching Chuck Norris, Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun, except for the fact that we didn't think about how like little kids pay attention to things. And like there's not any... The worst thing in it is mild violence. But Chuck Norris, if you know who Chuck Norris is a Kung Fu master. And... his Kung Fu pants are the best thing ever. Specially designed by Chuck Norris to not bind. Wow. So, but our kids started kicking me.
Yep.
Because we were watching Chuck Norris, and so, like, what's Chuck doing? He's kicking people. What am I going to do? I'm going to kick Dad.
It was a problem.
Yeah, and then
we had to have talks.
Now we don't even watch.
Stop it.
We stopped letting him see it, and now we don't watch it either.
Yeah. Pretty much, if it's not safe for him, it's not getting watched.
Yeah, even after he goes to bed, because then you just forget about things.
Yeah.
And then you're ready to go to bed.
Yeah, and then like you get caught up, like, okay, well, let's pause this silly thing, this disc golf video, because it's super clean and all that. Let's just pause it, get him to bed. And then he goes to bed like, well, might as well finish it. Boop.
I'm going to finish whatever I don't want to not know.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't leave this on a cliffhanger.
Gotta know who wins.
Or
what charity gets the money.
Yeah. Or we got to know are they going to get the corn harvested?
Or is the tractor stuck?
Is the tractor going to break? Are they going to get it out? These are important questions for life.
Yes. They have to be answered or nothing is right in the world.
Exactly. You can't sleep wondering what's going to happen to that corn.
Did millennial farmer get the corn harvested?
And will these soybeans ever dry out? That's what keeps you coming back. You wonder how you build a YouTube channel? You got to build the drama. And the drama on that channel literally is, are these soybeans ever going to be dry enough to actually harvest them?
And what happened to the kittens?
There's just a constant flow of kittens, and I don't know what happens to them, but...
I'm normally cooking when y'all are watching that, so... I don't know. I just saw kittens one time.
Year after year, more kittens are produced, and I don't know where they go.
But I don't even remember where we started with this TV thing. Oh.
Well, what I was going to say was that back when what I remember from like when cable, you started getting all the Comcast and the digital TV or whatever it was, is that there was a ton of kids channels too though, because like all of a sudden like Disney popped out a whole bunch more channels, and Nickelodeon had like All Day Nick Jr.
Oh yeah.
Which I remember being a kid, and we had a TV in our room. I shared a room with my brother for years. We had a TV in there, and we'd go to sleep with like Disney Channel on, because Disney Channel was at the time not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
And not that they didn't have their issues, but they definitely weren't like they are today.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you'd fall asleep with Disney Channel on because like Cartoon Network was bad at nighttime.
Yeah.
And then
Couldn't watch that after 9.
Not that Nickelodeon was bad, but it was always like, Home Improvement and shows like that. But you'd fall asleep with Disney Channel on, and every day you'd wake up to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And then something about being tired, and that show just like being able to hit the lowest level of you. And so you wake up and you're like half asleep and you're just like watching it.
And then you realize, wait, what?
Why am I watching Mickey Mouse? I am, I'm going into middle school. I can't be watching this.
See, that's the problem though with like how our families are, because we both have siblings that are a good chunk younger than us.
Yeah.
Like I have a sister that's 5 years. You've got a brother that's 7 years. So there's a decent chunk of time in between. But then you as the older one, like, I need to pacify them and help mom, dad, keep this kid calm while they're doing whatever.
No, we grew up different. I didn't.
Sorry, I turned into the parent. So I was like, I got to have this on. Got to watch Teletubbies before I put all these kids on the school bus.
No. No, it was just what was on. I mean, I don't remember what time we woke up as kids, like 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock. I can't remember what time you had to get up for school. But it was just what was on television. But if I was going to watch something, like, no, I'm the oldest one. I got to pick what we're going to watch. I'm not going to baby you guys.
I just had to make sure all the kids stayed calm and we didn't miss the school bus. That was my job.
My biggest issue was falling asleep on the school bus. Because
did you ever fall asleep on the school bus and then miss your stop and have to go ride with the big kids?
Oh, no, I can beat that. Because I never fell asleep in the evening. I fell asleep in the morning. My issue was that the school bus wouldn't come pick me up for middle school and high school. Mm-hmm. And so I had to get on the school bus for the elementary school route, ride the whole elementary school route, and then stay on the bus when they dropped those kids off, and then ride the full middle school, high school route. So I'm on the bus for hours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had that too, but like I had to everyone rode the bus together to the elementary school, and then you got off and you separated to take other buses to the middle school or high school.
I was like the only kid that was riding to the elementary school and then would just ride the whole route for the rest of it.
No, that didn't happen. Now, there was the elementary.
And they would drive and pick kids up near the house. I don't know why they wouldn't just come pick me up on the other route.
Yeah.
But it's neither here nor there. But the issue is that, so then you're tired, you fall asleep. I woke up so many times at the high school, late for middle school, and had to get driven back by the bus driver.
That poor bus driver.
Yeah, they weren't happy.
They're like, I'm over these kids, and you're making me go back.
Mm-hmm. One time I was asleep. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if this was in middle school or high school. But I'd fallen asleep, and we're driving, and I get woke up slamming into the seat. We hit a deer.
What?
Yeah, in the school bus. That was crazy.
And then they had to call another bus and get all the kids.
No, we still drove.
Oh.
But we had to wait. We had to wait for the police and like all that stuff, and it was interesting.
Oh, see,
we had multiple times. Now I did have to experience like the whole you're sitting there, but that was always in the evening because it seems like buses only break down when it's 100 degrees outside in the summer after school.
Yeah.
Like let the bus break down in the morning. That would be great.
What was always the worst, though, is if you're trying to figure out if it was a snow day or not. So you're sitting there watching the weather to see if your school got canceled.
No, my parents were doing that one for me. So, like, they were up before me.
See, but
and they just come in and be like, it's a snow day.
No,
Ooh.
My mom was already at work.
Yeah, no.
we were at home. I was in charge.
That seems legal.
Hey, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you lived.
Yeah, I survived. Everyone else did too.
Somehow. God had mercy.
He made a way.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
That's funny. No, my parents were there, and they always just would tell us that it was. I remember my mom claims that she would dress me while I was asleep and through like middle school.
Yeah, no.
I've always been a really good sleeper, though.
Yeah, you hit the pillow and you're out. Like, just gone.
Yeah. Now, there was that time, BC, in between like innocence and conversion and salvation. There was some struggles in there, but at this point in life, especially, in that time of innocence where like you don't really realize you're doing anything wrong, and then,
so that
now,
time of ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like there's that time where there were some hard times, but at this point, like now I can just fall asleep. Now, in high school, there were times like that. Like my dad, I have never done an illegal drug. I've never taken any medications that were not prescribed to me or were not like, Advil or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my dad always thought I was on drugs.
I hear the stories all the time.
So I worked at Ford, and this was like senior year of high school, and I would work at Ford in the morning instead of going to class. And then at lunch, I would go to school.
And it was all sanctioned.
Yeah. And it was through school.
Yeah. He's not skipping school, y'all.
But then after I got out of school, I would go work at Crystal's until 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And that was like every day. And so anytime that I was home, I'd hit the couch or the chair, and I just passed out. My dad's like, I don't know why he's always sleeping.
He's working.
All he does is sleep. Blah, 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 blah.
What about that time that you would get home and you'd climb the tree?
They say I just grabbed a branch on a tree. Mom's like, he shot up the tree.
Climbed the tree to the tippy top.
No. I don't even.
That's the story they tell.
I didn't even make it in the tree. Come on now. But that's the story that they tell. And then he's convinced that I'm on drugs. Well, I thought people on drugs were lazy, first of all. I didn't unless I was on like, some hard smack or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know what drugs are going to cause you to climb a tree.
Isn't there a drug called speed? Wouldn't that make you speedy?
There you go.
I don't know.
He just sped right up that tree. He must be on the speed. I don't know what it's not. You can tell
we're so knowledgeable on this, y'all.
Yeah, we're good at. All I know is what I learned in middle school that has stuck with me my entire life.
Just say no.
Yeah. No, they came with that meth program.
Oh, yeah, and they showed you all those pictures and the people eating their scabs.
Yeah, and more things. And I'm like, nope.
Stay away. Run the opposite way.
Stay away from that stuff.
Yep.
I just never had an interest. Praise God on that one. Not that I didn't have my own set of problems, but I'm very thankful that they didn't involve drugs.
Yeah.
Even though my dad was convinced that they did. That was the line I was not willing to cross. Yeah. I'll cross a lot of lines in my youth, but I'm not doing the drugs.
Yeah.
It never ends well.
No.
It's mind-blowing to me.
You can see it. Just look at any example.
Like, okay.
Just pick one.
I don't condone anything that I'm about to say.
Okay.
But like, you can watch somebody smoke a cigarette and they don't change.
Yeah.
You can watch somebody put a dip in and they don't change. Like they just are smoking a cigarette or dipping skull or whatever.
But then you take it away from them.
Well, yes, but that's what I'm talking about. But you can't watch somebody do any other kind of drug, like smoke, marijuana or do any of these other things. It's like scary, the change that'll take place in people when they're on actual drugs. So how could you witness that and think, I'm good?
Yeah,
I'll do that.
No.
That looks like a great time. I want to be paranoid. I want to be out there like rubbing myself, like shaking, like I need another fix. Like, no, why do you no one comes out of that mess clean.
Yeah. I think I watched way too many like CSI stuff and crime shows and things growing up to where none of that just appealed.
Yeah.
You're just, no, I'm good. I'll just stay on this side of the law.
Well, and like, okay, you take and also like and I think what I meant to on the smoking thing, I thought it and I never said it. The smoking, like a cigarette, is a long-term effect. But like all the drugs are an instant effect. Like now you're broken.
Yep.
Right? Not that smoking's good.
Yeah.
Don't smoke. It's very bad.
Don't do it.
I think it's, it's probably sinful because you have a dependency, blah, blah. Anyways. But then also you look at like alcohol, right? We don't drink because of the Bible.
Yeah.
Obviously. But also, let's just weigh this out in a logical way. I'm a very logical person. I think that's, a downfall, but also a positive. Because I was also never into drinking.
Yeah.
Praise God. I have addicted personality. I can get addicted to anything.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be anything that's known to be addictive. I can get addicted to
unsweetened decaf tea. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not going to say it's an addiction. That's like saying you're addicted to water. You need it to survive, LaBre.
You do not need that.
I'm joking. But so like you look at the alcohol though. So you want to drink something that doesn't taste good. That's going to give you a headache and has the potential to make you throw up and has the potential to make you not realize anything you're doing, lower your inhibitions to a point to where you're doing things you would never have done before and you're not going to remember them.
See, it doesn't sound like a good time.
No, I don't think that's what I want to get into.
Yeah.
No, just like logically speaking, drugs and alcohol don't make sense.
Exactly.
So
it's just say no. Walk away.
We're going to be the new face of... Listen,
the
people.
The new face of dare.
Could you imagine going into a middle school? Okay, you don't need to be drinking or doing the drugs because it just doesn't make sense.
And let me tell you why. Here's my PowerPoint presentation. Back in the...
Scabs. You think you have bugs on you when you don't. Big one, prison.
Yeah.
If you get caught with it, selling it, or buying it,
off you go.
Yeah. There's just nothing good that comes from these things.
Exactly. So
I'll take what the Bible says. Do not be drunk,
yep.
but instead walk in the Spirit.
Amen.
Singing spiritual songs to yourself and praising God. And you know what? The world's going to think you're drunk.
Yeah.
Flip over to Acts chapter 2.
Yeah. These are not drunk as you suppose.
This is what the prophet Joel prophesied of. But it's just like people think that this stuff's going to make them happy and still like all it does is just numb.
Yeah.
And then it just brings them back to pain the next day.
Yeah.
What's weird... Oh, because my dad always thought I was on the drugs.
I had the same thought. I was like, wait, how did we get here?
I don't know if my dad just didn't like being... Well, like one, I get the tired thing. But also you're growing a whole lot. You're a teenager, whatever. Like, yeah, you're just tired all the time. But then there's one time we had some friends over. And I think we were eating like hot dogs or something. And you put a bunch of high school guys together. We're in the living room, like watching TV or whatever.
Let me guess, you went through like 6 packs of hot dogs.
No, I don't. Well, it's possible. But.
And you were all on the drugs.
Yes. And that's what. It wasn't because we ate a bunch of hot dogs, though. So, like, you're in there and you're just like cutting up and having a good time. Well, if like, you get a group of people together and you're eating, somebody's eating while other people are talking.
Yeah.
And I don't know what was said, but one of the guys got choked.
Oh, no.
Choked so bad that he got, like, sick.
Oh.
And he didn't get, like, super sick.
Okay.
But it was sick enough to where, like, he ran to the kitchen, and then he was getting sick, like, in the sink, of all places. And the
trash can's right behind you.
Your trash can was right... Well, but you don't know that. It's not your house. And then what's Dad's thought? They're on the drugs. They're on the drugs. I don't want to be that dad. I don't want to always be assuming that they're on the drugs. Pray to God that they're not on the drugs.
Yes. Hope,
But
Lord
I also
willing,
don't want to be assuming all the time, hey, you're on the drugs,
Lord
kid.
willing, we'll know all of the friends and children, young adults and all that well enough to where we can trust that they're not on the drugs.
I don't know.
Lord willing, we won't have to worry about it.
I'm not going to take that bet. I'm going to pray, though. But I'm not going to take the bet that we're going to know people well enough. Like, you can't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can never really know someone. But,
well, I'm just saying you can never really know, like, youth. Like, you're not going to know the friends well enough, and it doesn't matter how good parents are.
Yeah.
Things are still going to happen.
If a kid wants to do bad, they're going to do bad.
Well, I think that's enough talk about the drugs.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to go any deeper into that.
Another subject. What else you got for me?
So, I read today, actually heard and read, that Legos are a better investment than what precious metal? I was going to tell you.
Diamonds?
That whole...
Metal. You said metal.
I was just like, I need you to replay what I said in your head because I think you made a mistake there.
Yes. Is it more valuable than gold?
Yeah.
What?
So it says that Legos, now that was kind of a broad term, but studies have found that the market prices of retired Lego sets, when sold on secondary marketplaces, grew by at least 11% annually, which is higher than the average returns for gold, large stocks, bonds, and other types of investment.
So we got to buy Legos.
Yeah, apparently we need to take all of our money and put it into Legos.
Yep, that's what I just learned.
Yeah, 11%. I mean, if it was like 50%, then you might be able to convince me, but I'm not going after the Legos at 11%. It just doesn't seem worth it to me.
I just don't like Legos that much, and I don't
you don't build them.
No, but like I just don't want big bunches of... I don't want to collect that much.
I don't want a Beanie Baby myself. These are going to be worth something one day. Because how do you know what set's going to...
Barbie dolls. That was the worst.
Well, is it clear...
Can't play with this.
We're going to have to dive into that in a second. But, like, how do you know what's going to be discontinued?
Exactly.
Like, how do you know that they're not going to make that set again next year, and now what you just paid for, the value's not there?
Yeah. And don't forget, you got to save all the ones you get from your McDonald's Happy Meals and stuff, too, because those could be worth money, too.
So you weren't allowed to play with Barbie dolls?
So there were certain Barbie dolls. You'd get, like, the 20th anniversary, the ones in the fancy boxes. You weren't allowed to open those and play with them.
But they gave them to you.
Yes. They were Christmas presents.
Because I remember kids like,
here's your present.
Well, I say kids.
You can't open it.
I remember presents. Goodness gracious. I can't think tonight. I remember parents that were buying some of those and like putting them up. No. But I didn't know anybody who it was like, here, this is your present.
Yeah. Yep.
But how many of those did they make? Thousands.
Yeah. But, we lasted so long and they were like, forget it. I'm opening this. And then the parents are so mad.
I can't remember if I told you or not, but the guy at work, the one that built our table out there and stuff, I think he bought a bunch of Barbie dolls from like an estate sale. And he got a good deal on it. And then he was like selling them on eBay.
I mean...
Like he had like a room full of Barbies.
It's a little strange, but hey, make $1 where you can.
Yeah, I think it worked out for him. I don't remember the follow-up, but I remember him showing me a picture of like all these different Barbie dolls and telling me like this or that about them. And I
bought all this for $2. And then
I don't think it was that
$400.
cheap, but he got a deal on it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of making money, but I'm not like, I don't have the bandwidth to put into this stuff.
Yeah.
It almost feels sometimes like to me, it's like I've gotten into the idea of like, and it's not even get rich quick schemes. It's really like make a little bit of spending money slow schemes.
Yeah.
Is where I fall into. But then it's like, it never works out.
Mm-hmm.
Like somehow everybody on the internet is able to make some kind of profit doing something. And then if you try it, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. We ventured a couple little avenues. And there was one, the buying and reselling VCRs and stuff that did good, but then that's annoying having to go to the post office and then like if you're selling other electronics and they're like, hey, this phone from 1998 doesn't work.
Yeah, it was
I had no way to know that.
I remember the guy that asked, we bought a clock radio from the 80s or something, and really when I first bought it I was like, this seems kind of cool. And so I bought it and we had it like next to our bed for a while. And then it was like, all right, it looks like this could, make some money. We'll just go ahead and sell it because we don't need it.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, is the LEDs or is the screen bright? And I'm like, yeah,
I
can see the
can
numbers.
read.
I can read the time on it, and I, he buys it, ship it, and he's like, it's not as bright as I thought you meant it to be. And I'm like, well, how bright? It's 40 years old. What do you expect it to be?
Yeah.
Brand new?
Do you want it to keep you up at night because it's so bright?
That was a weird one. I don't know. I didn't understand that one. But yeah, it just got to be a hassle. Shipping is a hassle on anything. Anything with a battery sucks. And then also, but like trying to buy VCRs and things was just a major pain.
Yeah.
Because you've just got to constantly want to be going to stores. And like, it takes the fun out
to buy
of it.
other stuff because you're like, ooh.
Well, yeah, but it also just like you're constantly going to these stores and hoping you find something and either not finding anything or it wasn't a good time.
Yeah.
What I think I've learned is that God's like, listen, not for you. Just work your job, enjoy life, try to help other people, lead other people in some religious stuff, fulfill the calling that I've placed on your life, and that calling is not
buying and reselling
or having a bunch of side hustles. We're the only people that have chickens that nobody wants to buy your eggs. It's like you look online and they're like, yeah, and I have no problem getting rid of eggs, and people just want to buy them from me. I don't know who your friends are, but I don't have people that are just lining up the street like, hey, I'd like some eggs, please.
Yeah,
even through the egg recession of, whatever year that was, 2021, 2022. It all is 1 year now. But
that whole 3-year span's just one.
At this point, what's time?
Exactly.
No, but nobody was like, oh yeah, we'd love some eggs, and I never wanted to even sell them for anywhere near what they were selling the cheap eggs for. Like they were selling 79-cent eggs for what, $4 a dozen or something.
Yeah, it got a little crazy, but we were just getting chickens in that point. So
that's true.
There wasn't a lot of eggs and stuff. Now
we have a mess of eggs. But we have a friend that likes eggs a whole bunch. So I can always pawn some off on her, and then the neighbor really enjoys eggs. But my point is that you still see everybody on the internet talking about like how they can sell these eggs so fast and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, that ain't working for me.
If I can find another person like the neighbor.
Yeah, then we'd be fine.
That'll be good.
But what I've learned is that it's just not my area.
Yeah.
I'm not a business person, and that's okay. And that's what they talk about. Like on this stuff that we do now, you feel like you're hustling. It's an interesting term.
Yeah.
But like they use it as far as like trying to make money or whatever. I'm not trying to make money through any of this, but constantly busy, constantly editing, constantly recording, constantly trying to put stuff out. And especially when you have a full-time job and this isn't what you do full-time. Yeah. But you have to do another level of hustling. And it has to, and like, I'm sorry. I don't want to offend anybody or like call anybody out or anything.
But you're going to.
Well, it's just like, I think that it's hard to actually be hustling as far as in side hustles and in business and things like that and not do it out of a little bit of a love for money.
Yeah.
Because the more that you're doing you're not doing it, oh, I want to grow, like, and I'm not saying everybody.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when you look at side hustles, it's not about like, oh, I just want to keep busy or, oh, I really enjoy this or enjoy that. It's like, no, I want to make money.
Yeah.
And so like you're grinding really hard just to make extra money.
For what though?
And that's not where I'm at. Yeah. And what I always fall back into is it's like, I feel wrong.
Yeah.
Like I'm so focused on making a little bit of extra money that it just doesn't feel right to me. It almost feels like a love of money in my life. And I'm not saying that's the truth in everybody's life.
And like you said earlier, you do have a very addictive personality. So there is a fine line on all things and not becoming addicted to it and being focused on that and making that your God. So.
Well, it's funny because it's weird to think about, especially like through the last 7 years that we've been together. But I remember, in college and in like, school and stuff like that, that I really wanted to just have something that I could be busy with all the time. And I don't know if it was because like, I've got to stop saying like so much. I don't know if it's because of the shows that you would watch on TV and it seemed like, men were always working.
Yeah.
And like even when they were, I said it again, even when they were home, they were, I've got to do some business stuff, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that.
Yeah.
And so just in my mind, it seemed like that's what you need to be doing.
Just always got to be busy.
And so still though, I've always wanted to find like, what can I just be busy at and enjoy and constantly be able to improve and work through. So, hey, here we are.
Yeah. Welcome.
29 years in, and we figured it out.
It just took a little bit of time. That's all.
Oh, hey, one less year than Jesus. I'm just saying, he had to wait 30 years to get to where he was supposed to be. That's awful.
Oh, goodness.
That's how you can tell that it's been a long week. It has been a long day. And I'm tired because that joke might have been a little too far.
So we're sorry. We'll pray about it later.
Lord help me. It just came into my mind at the right moment, at the right time. I didn't mean it as sacrilege, but here we are.
Yep. You get distracted by the fly?
No, I'm just tired. Just looking around. It's going to be weird if we ever make this to a video podcast.
Oh, my goodness.
Because then we have to, like, not just be how we're being right now. And you can leave that to the imagination. Yeah. Not that we're doing anything weird, but we're definitely not, like, focused as you would be on a camera. Yeah. Or if there was a camera.
One last thing that I want to discuss before we wrap this thing up is choosing paint colors is hard.
Oh, you live such a difficult life.
Do.
What was the hardest thing you did this week? Well,
I had to pick a paint color.
Both of my bathrooms are being remodeled. And
because of water damage.
And I've got to pick out what we're going to do in them. We're having them fully redone, and I don't know what I want.
Ladies, you understand. This is hard. Like,
I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm saying it's funny when that's the hardest part of your week.
Yeah. But it's very difficult because we moved into this house and we started making it our own. And like we took the bathrooms that we had and made them beautiful with what we had. Like
with what we had,
we made them very nice, I feel. And I really enjoyed them. And now like I get rid of the stuff that was causing me to be innovative. And now I'm like, I don't even know what to do. So I spent 2 hours at Home Depot looking at colors.
See, that's what cracks me up is you've done that. This isn't like a rare thing. Like you go to the store and you're there forever.
Yeah.
I went to 2 stores tonight and wasn't there a cumulative of 10 minutes.
Sometimes I just like to get out the house, perks of being a stay-at-home.
You think it's hard to find a paint color. You try finding a pumpkin pie in October. That's hard. And you would think it wouldn't be hard. There's pumpkins everywhere.
But people don't know how to take the pumpkin to make it to a pie.
Well, you think the grocery store would.
They don't know how to take the pumpkin. They know how to take the can and make it to a pie.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying that you expect to be able to go in the grocery store and there's going to be a pumpkin pie there as soon as the leaves start falling out of the trees.
You know what?
Pumpkin spice, everything. Maybe they already got bought. You're right. I didn't even think about it.
I was going to say, if you went to Walmart, they would have had one. Everyone knocks on Walmart. But y'all, Walmart stepped up their game. They are my preferred, besides like the Ingles. I like the Ingles. But if you're talking about all around, anything you need some clothes, you need household stuff, you need groceries.
Also maybe
Walmart.
Because all you have in this town's a Walmart, and so that specific Walmart's like, look, we can monopolize on everything.
I don't know. In general?
I don't know.
Because there was another store that got a lot of popularity that they did some stuff and we said no. So we left them.
Well,
but that store even before then, I didn't like. They used to have top-notch clothes.
Well, I went to my favorite store first, which is Ingles. And I know, like, I don't even know where all Ingles reaches. And I know that some Ingles were not great. We have, like...
We have a new one.
We have a new one, and it's just the best store in our town. Oh, it's got beautiful. All the nice stuff. Like, it's wonderful.
It's our Publix.
Food City is the worst store ever made. But our child told me, he's like, they will have a pumpkin pie. As I asked him, I said, should we... Because we were at Ingles, and they didn't have one. And I was like, should we go to Walmart or should we go to Food City? And he's told me to go to Food City. And so we went to Food City. He was wrong. Now, they did have a sweet potato pie. And if you're in a pinch, I think you could probably take a sweet potato pie to a get-together, peel the sticker off that says sweet potato, tell everybody it's a pumpkin pie.
And they'd believe
you. And they'd be like, it's not the best pumpkin pie I've ever ate, but this is a pretty good pumpkin pie. I mean, for the most part, they say that if you eat canned pumpkin pie or you eat store-bought pumpkin pie, that you're eating like yams anyways, and a sweet potato is basically a yam or squash or something, so it's whatever, I knew it would be fine, but I did buy one that they did have frozen ones, but it was just, you expect to see a fresh pumpkin pie when you go to the grocery store in the fall.
Yep. Nope. Got to go to Walmart for that.
They had a pumpkin roll.
Oh. Not my favorite, but
No, I prefer a Yule log.
You have to make a new one. You're the bomb at making a Yule log.
It was pretty great.
Yeah.
That is the most work that I've ever spent on anything. Well,
brisket.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, because hands-on time. The brisket was like a long cook time, but hands-on time, that cake was a beast.
Yeah.
And so, let's rewind the clocks back. It was 2020. The year that everything got awful. But my mom wanted to spice up the end of the year.
Yep.
And so you take Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and she wanted us to do food competitions, basically. And so I think, what was it? Halloween was a side dish type thing.
Yeah.
And then Thanksgiving, it was like an appetizer. So Halloween, you made an appetizer type dish. And then Thanksgiving, we all made a side. And then Christmas, we all made a dessert.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because that Yule log cake was hard to make.
It was so pretty, though.
But I don't know if I spent more time cutting little smokies whenever I made those like squid.
Yeah.
They're supposed to look like little squids in barbecue sauce. And it was little smoky hot dogs, and you would like have to cut every individual hot dog and then put it in a pan and fry the bottom of it so it would push out like that. I would never do that again. I would do the Yule log before I do that again.
I vote you make it another one this year.
What's funny is I rarely cook.
Yeah.
Not that I can't cook.
He's a very good cook, y'all.
What's what I was going to say is because I don't cook a whole lot, obviously, because you stay home and I go to work, and it just makes the most sense for you to cook because you have the time. But I won all the food competition. So I won every like it wasn't just like, oh, you got the majority points because we did it on a point-based system.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you got the majority points. No, I got first on all 3 events.
Yep.
I'm just that much better than all of you guys is what it turns out to be.
Be careful.
Hey, I've told you. We talk about Christian content. My dream is to have another YouTube channel where it's not, overtly Christian. It's got Christ-centered things throughout it, but you're also just doing some fun stuff. And I think doing food competitions, among other competitions, would be great. And I'm still convinced that I could beat you. I would be the dude perfect Tyler Toney of our competitions.
Let's have a pumpkin pie bake-off.
Yeah. I think I could still beat you because now I know how to make it because I've watched you do it. It'd be different if I wasn't involved. And I made the better.
You make an apple pie.
It'd be easy.
A pretty one.
That would be a little bit harder.
Yeah. You got to make a pretty one that tastes good.
Okay. But I made the better pumpkin cookies. With the same pumpkin puree. But my cookies were way better than the ones you made.
Okay.
And we could have our own chili cook-off. And you know who would win?
No, because you'd put 4 different jalapenos in.
Well, it all depends on who's eating it. But it was still delicious. That's still the best chili that I've ever had.
I really enjoyed that
no meat.
Vegetarian chili.
That chili's good, but it didn't have
the chili
flavor.
Mac. Yeah. It did too.
Not like the chili that I made.
You mean spice.
No.
That spice.
It was hot.
Does not equal flavor.
It was hot, but it wasn't as bad as you would think it would be.
Spice does not equal flavor.
It sounded bad. Okay. I worked a weekend shift of overtime one week, and when I came home on Saturday, Bree was not here. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to make some chili. And so I got the beans and all that stuff and, made the seasoning from scratch.
Yeah.
Ground the peppers and everything. No, I'm just kidding. But I got all the seasonings, mixed my own seasoning mix to make chili seasoning, put all that in there. And then it was summer, so the garden's going full steam. We had all kinds of peppers. And there were green peppers and orange peppers and red peppers. And so I didn't know what they were. I didn't pick them. And they were all sitting over there together. And I'm like, well, I'll just throw, a couple of all these different colors in there. And I was like, yeah, I threw a couple of all these colors in there. And you're like, those were all jalapenos. And so on the surface, you're like, that's going to be really hot. It wasn't any worse than the gumbo that you make.
Gumbo hits different.
No, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as you would think it would be. It was really good chili.
It was yummy, but
and I just wouldn't put as many peppers in there then, because now I know.
You got to do the chili cook-off though when the garden's popping.
But I made it several times, and it was good when I did less peppers.
Yeah, little tomato heavy. For my liking, but
Then there's certain food things that we couldn't compete in, like pork loin. We make it the exact same way.
Yeah.
So it's not going to work out. Like but it's delicious.
So good.
We've talked about that before.
Y'all, just get a pellet grill. Just do it.
Yep, that's high recommend. If you're looking at grills and you're like, oh, I don't know what to get. Should I get a Blackstone?
Pellet grill.
Should I get a pellet grill? Should I get a gas grill? No, just get a pellet grill.
Yep.
It's an outdoor oven. It makes cooking super easy. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to try. You just put the stuff on there for the time that the recipe calls for. You season your meat. You put it on there. And you go get it when it's done. And it's delicious. And you don't have to do anything.
Exactly. It's
you
wonderful.
Can make pulled pork. Literally. Delicious. Better than any barbecue restaurant you go to because you're eating it fresh. You're not eating it that's set in a warmer for hours.
Actually, y'all, don't get a pellet grill because it will ruin all barbecue restaurants for you.
That's a good point.
Okay. So, sorry.
But you make a pulled pork, you're like, oh, that sounds like it would be so difficult to make a bunch of pulled pork. No.
Mm-mm.
You go outside, you turn the grill on to whatever temperature. It's normally like 250.
Yeah.
Turn it to 250. It does it all. It starts the fire. As long as you've got pellets in the hopper, it starts the whole thing for you. Yep. You walk back in the house, season the meat. 15 minutes after the grill's been turned on, you throw that sucker on there for however many hours based on the pounds of meat that you have. You don't flip it, you don't turn it, you don't wrap it, you don't move it, you just set it there. And at the end of the cook time, you go out there, get it, put it on a pan, and shred it, and it's the best pulled pork you'll ever eat.
We should have pulled pork this weekend.
We're not going to be home.
Oh, man.
Otherwise, yes, I would agree with you completely. Pulled pork is delicious, and it's easy. And I think, that's what I told you about doing keto, is if we were to do keto, it'd be fine because you just make a bunch of stuff. Like, you might get gout from eating a bunch of pork, but, you just eat smoked meat every day. You'll be fine.
Yep. Get you some buffalo wings, get you a pork loin, do a
pork butt.
Pull a pork butt, do so many yummy things.
We need to do ribs again.
Yeah, we've only done ribs twice.
I feel like it's not even once.
Maybe once on the pellet grill, but I've made ribs
You've
in the
made ribs
oven.
before, but I think that it's only been once on the pellet grill.
Yeah. Well, next time I grocery shop, I'll put that on my list. Check out ribs.
Well, next time you go Sam's, though.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that we can get the cheap meat. Yes. Like we discussed earlier, we're cheap. This is another one of those episodes where I have no idea what we're going to call this.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah. Just say no to drugs and alcohol. Praise God. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Well, I don't know what we're going to call this podcast, but I do know that we're going to call it right here.
Yep.
Because I'm ready to go to bed. And I try not to be that guy on the podcast, but today it's hitting different. I'm tired.
Y'all,
Sleepy
I hope you
vibes.
have a wonderful rest of your week. And
we got a great episode of the More God, Less Me podcast coming out on Monday. I've not recorded it yet, but I've got 95% of the notes written out.
Whoop, whoop.
It's going to be awesome, and probably for a lot of people it's going to be the message you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it.
So come back on Monday and find out.
Yeah, and maybe you'll find out if the soybeans are going to be dry enough to harvest.
Exactly.
Anyways, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. God bless.